Hello, welcome to a series of introductory Excel VBA video tutorials to teach you how to program with Visual Basic for applications, in particular in relation to Excel. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is open a new book, Excel book. Okay, as you can see, I've got my new book on screen. The first thing you need to do before you get set up is go to File, Options. This will vary in different versions of Excel, but in 2010 onwards it's the same. Then go to Customize Ribbon, and as you can see you need to access the Developer toolbar. Click OK. Okay, so now you can see the Developer toolbars appeared on your ribbons. This gives you loads of different controls, such as the ability to insert form controls, but for this tutorial we're just going to focus on the Visual Basic editor. So click Visual Basic. As you can see there's a keyboard shortcut, Alt and F1. Click that. Okay, so that's another project that I've got open there. So that doesn't relate to this, so let me just minimise that. Okay, so book 1 is the project that I'm talking to you about today, but obviously we'll go through in greater depth of what all these things mean. But today I'm just going to give you a bit of a brief rundown on what cool tools you've got in the actual Visual Basic editor. So there's 3 different types of coding modules, user forms, etc. 3 different types of interface that you'll be working with. So one's a user form. That's the actual user form that all the users see before they, whilst they're clicking around on Excel. A module is the standard code module that we'll be putting most of our code into, and a class module acts like a blueprint. These are more advanced concepts. Class modules are more advanced concepts, and I'll get onto that in due course. Okay, so let's just insert a module for now. Okay, so that's what a blank module looks like. Most modules will start with a public keyword, subroutine. Let's just say test. Okay, so that's the first module created. I want to increase the size of this somewhat so we can actually see. Let's put this up to like 18. Okay. That's a bit better for the camera to see. So public subtest. Okay, so what are the functions within the Visual Basic editor that I need to use? So it allows you to save the book. So that's the normal save function like it would be in Excel. You can import code modules, VB files, from any area in particular. You can also export the current code module. So we'll do that now. Let's just put message box test. Put some quotes around that so it understands what I'm saying to it. Message box test. So if I clicked on that, it just come with a message box saying test. Okay, so now I can export this out. So I'll put this onto my desktop. Just call it module 1. Let's remove the current module 1. Say no. Go back to the book in question. Right click on the book, or you can go into the file menu, import file, go back to module 1, open, look in my modules folder, and there you'll see module 1 there again. So that's the way that you can share the modules between applications. Okay. So in the edit toolbar there's some normal functions that you used to, like you can find keywords. So if I was just looking for test within that, it'll find the 2 keywords that I'm looking for. You can do specific case matching within the current procedure, within the current module, current project, etc. You can replace test with something else. So I can replace it with Gary, which is my name. So replace all. Find what? Sorry. Test and replace it with Gary. And replace it. Okay, So now when I run this function again, it will say Gary instead. Okay. What you can also do is indent and outdent. So if I want to indent my text, you just normally press tab, but that's another way to do it. If you wanted to outdent it again, you can send it back. Shift and tab is the control keyboard shortcut for it. You can, in the edit toolbar as well, you can list properties and methods. I'll get onto that in a second about the object orientated programming kind of structure. So that gives you everything that's contained within Excel's application module. So as you can see, each one of these, active cell, active chart, is a property. It's denoted by the little hand over the top. This little green thing here is something called a method, so it's doing something. These guys here are enumerated values. They're like list values. And yeah, they're all your properties for your actual application object, which is the actual object in question that we're talking about. So if you think of it as a worksheet, that's an object as well. And each worksheet has also got, sorry about that, each worksheet's also got a property to it. So range is the property, and then selection of that range is the method, so it's actually doing something to that property. That's basically, in essence, what the object-oriented programming methodology is about. So constants, it gives you a list of all the constants in the application. There's none available in this current application, but a constant's essentially a variable data type, but we'll get onto that in greater depth later on. If you press F2, it brings up what's called the object browser. So this allows you to look at every single object that Excel contains. F2, that's F2 again. But for now, we'll go into greater depth when we're developing code later on. The Project Explorer is this thing on the left. It shows you the structure of the project, so how many modules you've got in, what are the module names. If you wanted to rename a module, I click here on the Properties window. So I'm going to say Module Test. So that's now renamed the module to Module Test. Toolbars, you can add debugging toolbars. So you can just pull that up there. What else have we got? There's editing toolbars. These are useful for when you want to highlight and code text. So if I wanted to make that a comment, I can block comment it. So now nothing will run when I run this project because there's no code to actually execute. I can uncomment block. Another way to do this is by doing a quotation mark, single quotation mark. As you can see, it turns green. So that's how you make comments. Quotation mark, remove. You can toggle bookmarks within the document, indent and outdent again, complete words, and then look at all your properties and methods within that. Look, message box has come back as a method. Debugging tools, we'll go on to that when we start developing code in greater depth, but it allows you to step into each process by pressing F8, I normally find, and as you can see, it goes through the code one by one, so that then sends a message box. So if I had another message box here, let's do the old hello world. You'll see that in every app and then press F8. So first of all, it gets to Gary. It sees what the value of the message box is, Gary. You then hover back over it. Actually, that's for variables. Then hello world, and that executes the sub correctly, and then it steps out of it. So to do that, you press F8, or you can use the debug tools within the actual toolbar itself. Run, obviously that's self-explanatory. You can break your code, you can run it, so that's run it in its entirety without debugging through it. You can reset. Sometimes you'll have to press a stop button when you forgot to do the coding. References, again, we'll go on to the list of references in greater depth in later applications, but this allows you to access other application other applications VBA code, so you can integrate it into your Excel project. It's quite an advanced section of VBA, so we'll talk about that in greater depth in another tutorial, but now we're focusing on the basics. Okay, so window, it lets you tile it horizontally, etc. That's just for appearance sake. But yeah, one of the good things I would say is go and add the toolbar, edit toolbar. I'm not too bothered about the debug toolbar for now, but I'll keep the edit toolbar on there. That's probably worth having in further tutorials. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is Object Orientated Programming. As I said before, as you can see from the chart that's just appeared, basically you have objects, properties and methods. An object is a thing, a property is a description of that thing, and a method actually do something. So it's a bit like nouns, adjectives and verbs in the English grammar syntax structure. So basically let's come up with an example. So you're trying to create an employee database. The actual object itself is the employee, so that would be the employee as a blueprint for that. Then each property of the employee object would be, say I want the employee's first name, I want the employee's surname, I want to know his date of birth, etc. They're all properties. Then, okay, I want to do something to the employee, so I want to add a new employee to my list. So the add function would be a method of that actual employee class, so to speak, classification. So essentially that's how all programming languages are structured. They're called OOP, or Object Orientated Programming. Like I say, have a look on the internet if you want to go into it in greater depth, but this is just to cover the basics for now. So yeah, I mean, that's essentially, to wrap it up, that's essentially what we're going to look at. In the next tutorial, we're going to examine the macro recorder, and we're going to actually start doing some things with actually the code and cleaning up some of the actual output of that macro recorder. Okay, so for now, I'll leave you, and I'll see you again on tutorial 2.